Let's have a look at what's called as spread and rest operators. So we're going to create a new file ex07.js. First, let's create an array of some numbers. Let nums equals to an array of some numbers, totally random, and something like this. Suppose if you want to create another array with some numbers and numbers from this array as well. So how do we do that? So this is where the spread operator comes into picture. So I can say here let another nums equals to, let's assume that I have a 100, 200 as my initial values, and I want all the values of the nums. And it's so simple now, I can just type triple dot and then type here nums. So save this, and if I type here console.log nums and then console.log another nums, you should see that this will now consist of 100, 200 followed by 10, 23, 45, what are the numbers that I have there. So let's go back to the command prompt and then type in node ex07, and you'll see that I have the exact same thing over here. Now this can be used in many occasions to make a copy of this particular array. Suppose if I create another variable called nums2 equals to nums, which is this array. What we have created here is two different references to a single array object. So if I type here nums2.push 999 and then check out the values of nums and nums2, you will see they both will have 999 as their last member. So if I go back and try this once more, you'll see that 999 is this. So if I wanted a copy of these nums and not a reference to the same object, it's very simple. Surround this with a square bracket. So note that square bracket always creates a new array, and then say that, hey, give me the values from nums instead of that. So the square bracket here means it's always a new array, just like this being a new array, this being a new array. Even here also it's a new array, but the values come from the old nums itself. So if I go back and try this time, you'll see that nums2 has the 999 but not the nums itself. The spread operators can also be used along with objects. For example, if I have here let p1 equals to name Vinod, email, let's say vinod@vinod.co, and if I wanted another object which is a clone of this object or probably with more properties, I can always type here let p2 equals to a new object where probably I have here city Bangalore, and then I can also say that I want the value of p1, so which means the key values of p1 are going to be placed over here, and then I can add more if I want, something like country equals to India. Let's print it out. Console log p1, console log p2. Save this, go back to the command prompt, clear the screen and run the program once more. And you will see that this is P1 which contains only name and email, whereas the P2 contains additional values, but the values of P1 are also included in that. Just like the way we did it with arrays, if I type here let P3 equals to P1, P3 and P1 are two references to the same object, but if you wanted a different ones, you can always say here triple dot P1 just to make a copy of this. So I can say console log p3 triple equals to p1. It will say false. Save this, go back to the command prompt, run the same, and you will see now it says false because they are different. Whereas if I simply say p1, they will contain the same values because they both point to the same object. So this time it will say true because they are pointing to the same object there. Let's close this and create a new file, and I'll call it as ex08.js. Let's create a function called hello, which takes parameters like name1, name2, name3. And we're going to just say hello to those three names. So I can type here console log hello and followed by name1, name2, and name3. So in order to call this, I may have to supply like hello Vinod and say, for example, Sham, and then let's say John, and save this, go back to the command prompt, run the same by typing node ex08, and I should see hello, Vinod, Sham, John, etc. So now what if I have only two names? So obviously name 3 receives undefined, and that's undefined over here. So save this and go back and run this, and you can see it says undefined here. So obviously this may not work as expected over here. So to avoid this, what I can do is I can declare here a variable that's supposed to represent an array of all the values that I supply. So just like how we did in the previous case where an array was used to construct another array using the triple dot, I can just declare here triple dot names, and then I simply say here names instead of these 3. Save this and go back and run the same, and you can see this time it says hello with these 2 values. So which means whatever the number of values that I supply here will be received as this. Now this is called as a REST operator. Now the reason why it's called as a REST operator is because I can declare a variable here called a name, where Vinod will be passed to this variable called name, and Sham, for example, say Harish, and say Ramesh will now be passed as an array to this one. So save this. I can also say hello names. I can say from name. So I'm going to say hello all these 3 people from Vinod, because this one is passed on to this. The rest of them are received by this. Hence it's called the REST operator. So I go back to the command prompt and run the same. It says hello Sham, Harish, Ramesh from Vinod. You can also declare multiple variables before you start using the REST operator.